Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I wonder if you'd be kind enough just to be seated. It has just gone 6:30. I'd like to start the meeting. Sorry? All right. Okay. There are a few people still making their way across the car park, so I can, I guess, get on with some of the housekeeping and my introductions. Are we on Randishire time? Okay. Anyway, welcome. Good evening. Noswaith da I chi gyd. Good evening and welcome to this public meeting at Llandrindod Wells, which is an important part of the formal consultation document, which is why we're here this evening. I guess most of you will have seen this document. There are spare copies at the back, and you may well have picked one up on the way in. But the purpose of the meeting this evening, the public meeting, is part of this formal consultation document. My name is Geralt Evans-Hughes. I'm working with ORS, Opinion Research Services, and you'll note that we are mentioned on the second page of this document because we are working closely with Powys Council as an independent organisation to do the analysis of the questionnaire, which is in yellow. So at the back of this document is a questionnaire. We will be doing the analysis of that. In addition to that, we will analyse any correspondence or letters which we receive with any comments that you may choose to make in those letters. And we will also be making notes of this public meeting this evening. So I have a colleague sitting to my right, along with a colleague from the county, who will be making notes of all your comments, your questions. So it's a fairly comprehensive process that we're involved in. We are totally independent, and at the end of the process, because the consultation process will finish on the 23rd of May, we will analyse all that data, bring it all together in a report, and present that to officers from Powys, who will then feed that through to the cabinet members for their deliberation at the end of this process. So I'm here this evening as your independent chair. I have two key roles in terms of my objectives for this evening, and that is, firstly, to ensure that you all get ample opportunity to ask questions, if you so choose to ask any questions, or if you have any comments to make on the proposal in this document. And secondly, to keep us to time. We have allocated 2 hours for this public meeting, and I guess that we may well be ready to finish at the 2-hour point. The timing seemed quite appropriate for the meeting in Builth Wells last night, so I think people there had ample opportunity to ask questions in that 2-hour slot. So my role is quite clear. In terms of the housekeeping, just a couple of very quick points. If you would be kind enough to turn off your mobile phones, that would be really helpful. In terms of fire evacuation, we're not expecting a fire practice, so if the alarm goes off, that could be for real, so please leave by the nearest available exit points, which seem to be at the back and the side of the hall. The meeting area for the Pavilion Centre is the Peace Garden to the left of the centre, so when we go out, I guess it's on the left-hand side. Thirdly, we do have translation services, so you'll have noticed these headsets on your chairs. We have a gentleman here who is happy to translate, so if anybody wishes to ask a question in Welsh medium, they're able to do so, and he will kindly translate it into English for the non-Welsh speakers, so they're here. I am actually reminded that you leave them behind as well. They have no monetary value on eBay, and I must admit, Builth were really good. We didn't lose a single one at Builth, so let's see if we can actually compete with Builth and not lose any of these tonight. The fourth point is, you will notice there are a couple of cameras around the hall. We are actually recording this using the cameras for audiovisual purposes, which again will be an accurate record of the proceedings this evening. And I'm told that it will be uploaded or downloaded. I think it's uploaded onto YouTube. So if you want to see yourself on YouTube, do ask a sensible and a relevant question this evening. And in 48 hours, you'll be able to see yourself in 3D asking that question. I mentioned the fact we're taking notes. I think that is the purpose of the housekeeping. I think I've covered all those. So, and I've dealt with the purpose of the meeting, which is to open up the discussion. It's not a discussion, it's a listening event, really, basically. We're here to listen to your comments and to your questions. So what I'd like to do now is to ask the panel to introduce themselves to you, and I'll start on the right, if I may.
Councillor Barry Thomas, leader of Powys. Councillor Arnold Jones, Portfolio Holder for Education.
Ian Roberts, Head of School Service in Powys County Council.
David Powell, Strategic Director of Resources.
Noswaith dda, good evening. Marianne Evans, School Transformation Manager.
Good evening. Gareth Jones, Senior Manager, Central Service in School Services.
Hello, I'm Jane Thomas and I'm a Professional Lead for Finance.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. And just to make a comment, actually, I think we are really fortunate that we've got Councillor Barry Thomas and Councillor Arwell Jones, the Leader of the Council and the Portfolio Holder, with us this evening. Their role here is purely as observers. They're here to listen to the views of the public on this particular proposal. They have got open minds on the issue, and the eventual outcome of this process, they will take into account all the views expressed at all of the consultation meetings, which will be summarised in the ORS report for them. So I don't think they're intending to answer any specific questions because of the issue of predetermination on the final decision-making that they will be involved in. So just to clarify their role, they are here purely as observers. Okay, I think I'd like to ask Ian to go through a very short presentation, just outlining the key issues in our document.
Is that on? Yes, it is. Thank you, Gareth. Yeah. Thank you. What I want to do is to take you through just a very brief presentation, which will last no more than 10 minutes. It only contains 3 slides. The first slide just reiterates what the proposal is. Then the second slide will go on to the case for change. And the third slide I'll use to outline the next steps. I would like to emphasise what Gerard has said. What we will not be doing this evening is entering into any debate with you. We are genuinely here to listen. We are here to answer any questions that you may have. If we're unable to answer those questions this evening, we will include those questions within the report that goes to the Council's Cabinet and answer those questions within that report. But as I say, we will endeavour to answer the questions as much as we can this evening. In terms of the proposal, it is, as it is stated there on the slide, to close Builth Wells High School and Llandrindod High School on the 31st of August 2017 and to establish a new dual-stream 11 to 18 secondary school that will operate across the current sites of the 2 schools from the 1st of September 2017. It is that proposal and that proposal solely that will be considered by the Council's Cabinet. If during the consultation period other proposals are put forward for change, then the Council will consider those, and I'll explain what will happen should that happen under the next steps, which is the 3rd slide. So if I could move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so the case for change in Powys. And these bullet points are what we look at when we're determining any model for school reorganisation. Included within these points are the factors that are also relevant to mid-Powys, and they are to varying degrees dependent on which school or pair of schools that you're looking at. In terms of that first bullet point, falling pupil numbers across the secondary sector. In January 2016, we had 1,500 less pupils in the secondary sector than we did in January 2010. So in a 6-year period, we had a drop in pupil numbers of 1,500 pupils. That equates to the size of 2 secondary schools. The relevance behind that is that it places on the Council significant financial pressures. Much of the formula that comes into Powys from Welsh Government is based on pupil numbers. Consequently, the settlement from Welsh Government is low. We are in Powys are one of the lowest settlements across Wales, which results in the money that's available to be delegated to schools to be challenging, to say the least, in order for the schools to be able to provide a rich and broad curriculum offer, which decreases as you go through the key stages. And that then relates to the post-16 issues. In Powys, we've got small 6th forms. This year, this financial year, there's been a reduction in post-16 funding by 500,000, in the region of 500,000 from Welsh Government. That results in our schools as single entities not being able to meet the learning and skills measure of Welsh Government, which requires that learners, pupils, have access to 25 academic subjects at post-16 and 5 vocational subjects in a rural area that is extremely difficult for any authority to meet. What we have had in Powys is some success, but that is through a collaborative model where schools join together. Certain subjects are offered in some schools and other subjects in other schools. However, what that does require is for the pupils to travel between schools to access those subjects. We had an experience a couple of years ago of one sixth form pupil studying 3 A-levels and having to go to 3 different schools to study those A-levels. We had one pupil who was having to travel 35 miles to study French A-level. That is not ideal for our learners. They're spending the time on the road. There's a difficulty there in terms of losing crucial learning time. The reduced choice has also resulted in increasing numbers of pupils accessing their post-16 education outside Powys. We are losing learners in this area of Powys and South Powys to post-16 providers out of Powys, such as Hereford Sixth Form College, and up in the north of the county to Shrewsbury Sixth Form College. And it has to be our aspiration, where possible, that our learners are able to have an offer in Powys so that we keep our learners here, as should be their right. In terms of going back up there in too many empty places, at the moment, across in Llandrindod High School and also at Builth High School, there are 17% surplus places in both schools. Surplus places then results in finance being diverted away from curriculum offer, and it's going into non-educational factors. And there is a target across Wales of reducing at the secondary phase the surplus capacity significantly to make sure the funding goes into the education. Conditions of buildings, that varies across our Powys secondary schools, but we have got a significant backlog of major improvement in our schools. They are partly, some of them, wholly, some of them not fit for purpose for 21st century curriculum delivery, with digital learning, etc. There hasn't been a spend on them over the years to bring them up to standard. In respect of Welsh medium issues, small cohorts, limited choice. And this is a difficult one, because across Powys what we do have is a postcode lottery in terms of what is available for our pupils who want to study through the Welsh medium. And I'm not talking about Welsh as a subject. I'm talking about learning the other subjects, following the other subjects through the language of Welsh. It is our aspiration in Powys that when pupils enter the primary school, if parents choose to opt for Welsh medium education in the primary school, they will follow all of their subjects with the medium of Welsh. As we move into our secondary schools, there are very few secondary schools who currently offer the full entitlement as they move through Key Stage 3 to Key Stage 4 and post-16. What we are looking to do is to centralise provision, and you will probably be aware that there is also a consultation currently taking place in Brecon and Gwernafed, where that proposal is one of the parts of that proposal is to remove Welsh medium education from Brecon and centralise it on the Builth Wells site of this proposed new school, to aspire that more learners then makes it more possible to deliver a wider curriculum choice, specifically as you move through to Key Stage 4 GCSEs and A-levels. And the last bullet point I want to refer to is quality. Our learners are entitled to receive the highest quality of education that can be offered. And you can debate quality and what is quality, and you can use different performance indicators, and you can turn those performance indicators around to suit a purpose. However, if we are using Estin judgments, which is a very, it's one judgment, it's not the only judgment, it is a one judgment, we do not have a good profile, or good enough profile, of Estin outcomes across our secondary sector. In Powys, we've currently got 3 schools who Estin judged to require special measures, and we've got 2 further secondary schools who are currently in the Estin category of Estin monitoring. Now that is a very narrow definition, which Estin use, but it is that it is a definition. But also, when we look at the performance of our schools against like schools across Wales, against our families of schools, it's not a what I would use a good enough picture either. So there are issues around standards, both in both of the schools that we are proposing what we are consulting on here, but also in other schools within Powys. If I could move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so just to give you a time scale around this and the next steps. The consultation process ends on the 23rd of May. The council then, or the officers of the council, by the school organisation code, have got up to 13 weeks to write the report for Cabinet to consider. Taking that into account, it is intended that the consultation report goes to Cabinet for consideration on the 6th of September this year. Cabinet then will discuss and come to a decision, which could be one of 3. They could decide to proceed with the proposal. They could decide to ask officers to come out and consult on an amended proposal, or they could decide to retain the status quo. And that is the democratic right of the Council's Cabinet and the process. Without prejudice to any decision which the Cabinet will make, I will take you now through the steps should the Cabinet decide to proceed with a proposal on the 6th of September. If they decide to proceed with the proposal, what happens then is that statutory notice of closure are issued, and that's for 28 days. And the important word to identify there is 4 objections. Anything that you say during the consultation period is a consultation response. It's not an objection. So if Cabinet decides to proceed, it is that during that 28-day period that you would, should you have an objection, that you would write in with that objection. Following the closure of that 28-day period, Cabinet will then meet towards the end of November or early December to come to a final decision. The decision at that stage is, yes, we will proceed with the closure, or no, we won't. And that closes down then this process. Should the Cabinet decide to proceed, the next step is that a shadow governing body for the new school would be established. And that shadow governing body is determined by instruments of government. Basically tells you how many governors you have in it, how many local authority governors, how many teacher governors, how many non-teacher, how many parent governors, etc. And we would look to constitute that governing body from the 2 current governing bodies. However, whoever sits in that governing body will need to understand that there is a significant amount of work during that period of time, a significant amount of work. The first job of that governing body would be to recruit a head teacher to the new school. That shadow governing body and the head teacher would receive the budget as it would be on the 1st of September 2017, and then they would draft a staffing structure, and following that, the process is appointing staff to that new school in preparation for the schools to close, the current 2 schools to close on 31st of August 2017, with a brand new school opening, as per the proposal, on the 1st of September 2017. We understand and realise that those timescales are tight. They are tight. But they are, if the process is as intended and goes to those deadlines, they are achievable. Okay. So I've got nothing else in terms of the presentation to make. Thank you very much for listening and giving me the time to just give you that background information. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ian. Okay, we now move to the kind of question and answer slot. So this is your opportunity to ask any questions to the panel or to make any comments on the actual proposal. Now, there are probably 4 things you need to recognise. Firstly, well, 5. I've got my glasses on so I can see clearly at the back of the room. If you'd like to make a comment, ask a question, please put your hand up in the air and I will try and see you. I've got 2 assistants, Darren and Chris, at the side with the microphones. They'll also try and identify you if you want to put your hand up in the air. When you do get the microphone to speak, it'd be useful if you could introduce yourself by your name. If you're a member of an organisation, that would be useful. And if you could stand up as well, that would be extremely helpful. So, over to you. Who would like to be the first person to start the proceedings off? Okay, gentleman at the front.
Thank you. My name is Freddie Reeves. I'm the Plaid Cymru candidate for Brecon, Lancashire and Mid West Wales. I'm also a resident in Llandrindod and I've got children in Ysgol Treforys. I went to the meeting last night and as I said then I'm supportive of the proposal for Welsh medium education. I think it would present some exciting opportunities for children who choose to study for that medium. It's also clear that sixth form education in Powys needs reform. It's not fair on our young people to be having to go to and fro between sites in the middle of the day, and anything that can reduce that travel is to be welcomed, I think. However, like many other people who live in this town, I am concerned about the long-term implications of these proposals on secondary education in Llandrindod. I suppose what I'm asking for on behalf of the community is some clarity over what would happen if the new split-site school did decide in the future that they would like to close one of the campuses, what exactly that process would be. And also, I'd like to ask about the experiences in John Beddoes and Newtown. What have been the challenges? Because for those that don't know, John Beddoes has become part of the Newtown High School. And so it is a split-site school similar to what is being proposed in the Llandrindod. So in terms of what exactly would the governing body have to do in this new build Llandrindod split site? Would there be the same statutory process? Would it be a full cabinet decision? Would we have the same right of objection to the proposals? Or is it easier for this new school to push through that closure? I think for the sake of our children and the future of the town, we just need some clarity on that issue.
Yep, and I think Ian's going to start this one off.
Yeah, Doc Freddie, thank you very much, Freddie. Yeah, I'll take those in the order in which you've asked. You used the word push through at the end of your question. Nothing can be pushed through. Should, in the future, there be a situation where, if and when it was determined that the one school over 2 sites model was not working, and if it would be beneficial to work to a single site, what has to happen is exactly the same process that we're following now would need to take place. The council would need to come out and hold a separate and different consultation process. In terms of your reference to John Beddoes and Newtown, it is significantly different to the proposal here, because the proposal at John Beddoes and Newtown actually was the closure of John Beddoes and retaining education on the site in Prestine under the umbrella of Newtown High School. Yeah. At that given point in time, John Beddoes School was in special measures. Yeah. What happened at the school is that the leadership structure of Newtown High School established a leadership system where they provided capacity across the two schools, with the head teacher spending, and the deputy head teachers spending time at the two sites during the course of the week, depending on the focus at any one time, and also curriculum leaders also went across the sites as and when appropriate. One of the challenges was ensuring that those teachers who had that responsibility of working across the two sites were given adequate non-contact time in order to do that work. It has been beneficial in that what those teachers are able to do then is focusing on quality assurance of those departments, on developing the teachers in those departments. We had a staff meeting earlier, and what I assured the staff here in Llandrindod earlier, that I will actually go and discuss those issues again with, I've already spoken with the head teacher and senior leadership team of the schools, but with the middle leaders of school to have a look at what those challenges are. So should this proposal go through, should it go through without prejudice to any cabinet decision, that we will understand and share from those experiences. In terms of outcomes, at GCSE, there has been significant improvement at the Prestine site of Newtown High School.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Right, gentleman here, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Kane, I'm also a governor of MEP School here in Llandrindod. Just to probably re-emphasise what Freddie's asked, you mentioned the terminology statutory notice. That is obviously a legal process that you follow. Can you confirm that the authority, if it was to close one of the two campuses in the future, would still have to issue a statutory notice or not?
Yes, if that was the case, we would have to go through this process again. So this is a legal process, this is formal consultation, and then subject to the same decision-making stages as now. So that would have to go back to Cabinet, and only then, if Cabinet approve that, a statutory notice is published.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Michael Hodges, Grocery. There are 2 points really. One would have been to Howell, had you been able to answer the question, but we'll see if you can. With regard to the 21st Century School Programme, I've taken interest in other counties, Carmarthenshire, Pembrokeshire, Ceredigion, school reorganisation, decisions taken by the whole council, not just by the county. And I wondered whether this council should have to move to that. There is a regulation, which I'm not going to bore everybody with here. I tried on some earlier on, she lost the part of this into. I've got the exact regulation how Powys County Council could move to with urgency, and every county councillor would make a decision. My question really would be around the future delivery. Given the confusion around the present schools modernisation programme, should a line be drawn where we are then starting afresh with a mid-Powys configuration plan, taking in Newtown and Llandrindod and Llandrindod, Builth, we're now in Brecon, looking at delivering an improved 21st century educational plan fit to inspire, improve, excite our young people.
Well, with all due respect, I did say at the outset the role of the elected members here this evening is purely as observers. So I don't expect them to answer that question, but your comment has been noted, actually. Oh, I know. Can you try and be succinct as well? I know we've got a finite time.
I can start from the beginning if you wish. To inspire, improve, excite our young people for many years to come. A plan parents, teachers, governors and others can fully get behind instead of pitting communities and language against each other. Having worked with former heads of education, at no time did their past or future ideas ever consider shutting Llandrindod High. Far from it. They had visionary plans for the school, ways it all go wrong.
Look. Okay, thank you for that comment. Does anybody want to respond? I think the outline and the rationale behind these proposals are quite clear. The paper itself is in two parts. Part A is the case for change. And I guess you will have read this document, you know, with some degree of diligence. And therefore the rationale behind this proposal is actually outlined in Part A. Part B is actually the proposal. So I guess, you know, it's all in there. And I don't think there's anything else that I guess the panel would actually want to choose to respond to that comment. But your comment has been equally noted. Yep.
The rationale behind the whole, rationale behind the Did Wales regulation is the fact that if you go worst case scenario, and somebody wants that in the law, we lose Llandrindod High School. So when that becomes built for us, the children of a surrounding area are lost to build. We then, under a different plan, we look at losing hospitalities. Children that might have gone from another castle. It all needs to be done together because children are a part of the whole educational program. The Assembly will back nothing unless children feel free.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have another question from the floor, please? Right to the back.
Donna Chester. I'd just like to ask, you know, in real simple terms, you're planning to have one school on two sites, so Builth and Llandrindod, that's the actual proposal you're going for. You went through some of the concerns with education in Powys. However, I don't see how that would actually improve the situation. You know, how are the buildings going to be both need repair, how's that going to help? How's education going to be magically better just because you've got one head over two schools? How having staff travel between schools, using up more of their precious time, travelling rather than making lesson plans and marking and helping individual students, how's that going to make any improvement? You know, just by having Builth and Llandrindod, you're still going to have relatively small sixth form, so you can still have issues with choices that they have, and so therefore people will still have to travel. So what I don't understand from that list of things that you're concerned about how your current proposal will actually benefit pupils in any way.
Yeah, thank you for the question. In terms of the sixth form, my understanding is that the current numbers in the sixth forms, if you actually had one school, the total number of pupils in that one sixth form would be in the region of 200 pupils. That would enable additional post-16 funding to come to that one school, and then it would be the decision of the governing body together with the senior leadership of the school to decide which subjects then would be delivered on one site. But what it would, on which site, what it would mean is that there would be more subjects on offer, which probably would reduce the bleed of pupils out of the catchment area. And they would only have to travel, if at all, across the two sites. In terms of your first question, I stated that the quality of education, as per Estin judgment, across Powys is a poor profile, and we are aware that currently both the schools in this current proposal were deemed following inspection to be in need of special measures. I must point out and emphasise that when the school's in special measures, there are good pockets of practice in those schools. Absolutely there are. And what I would say is, by merging the two schools, what you will do, you will share that good practice across the two sites and reduce departmental variation. One of the biggest issues in secondary schools which are not performing as high as possibly they should be is the fact that, forget about variation between schools, the variation of performance between departments in our secondary schools is significant. It cannot be denied. And all of the research states that. So what we would be looking to doing is to having a leadership structure which enable the heads of those departments to work together to come up with consistent practices of assessment, to help pupils move on to the next step of learning, and to ensure that that is consistent across the departments so that all learners are supported, the more able pupils are challenged, and to ensure that each and every pupil reaches their potential. If we look at the practice that has happened in the Newtown John Bedder situation, it has worked. Yes, of course, things can change, and there is a debate, is it cohort, the type of pupil, the ability of the pupil you have within that. But if there's a good pastoral system in the school and early identification by the staff, each and every pupil will receive their entitlement. What we would have is class teachers who make the difference to the pupils in the end. The leadership structures are the leadership structures, but it's those pupils, it's those teachers in front of the children that make the difference, will be better supported through performance management, quality assurance and development to ensure they are all working to the best of their ability to get the best out of their pupils.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to come in there, Marion, at all? Okay, that's fine. There's a lady here in the red dress in the middle here. Chris, would you go to get the mic down here, please? Or Darren? Just in the middle. Yep, lady on the end. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is could I ask you, Chair, why the decision has been taken this evening that the leader and the portfolio holder is inappropriate for them to comment? I've been at the meeting in Nantmel, Dolai and Llanrindod schools, at which the leader and the portfolio holder commented on a number of points that were raised by the audience. And I'm curious to understand if that's the way the council conducted those meetings. Why has it been decided not to conduct those meetings in the same way? It's a curiosity to me. There's been a change in policy. Could I emphasise the points made by the previous speaker? And with all due respect, Ian, nothing that you said in answer to that demonstrates why these proposals will achieve what we all want to achieve, which is a better educational outcome for children. It has been hinted that teaching posts will be ring-fenced, therefore it will be the same teachers in the front of the classroom. With all due respect, if there is an issue about quality of individual departments in schools, that is a job for the local education authorities, school improvement officers. That's their job to be doing that. If I may, the previous speaker is right. If you look at those list of criteria which you need to address, these proposals don't change anything about form role, they don't change anything about the school building, they don't change anything about the size of the pupils that are in the sixth form. Ian has just admitted that children will still have to continue to travel to access A-level classes. These proposals have no impact upon Welsh medium, although I do give you the changes to Brecon may have an impact, but these proposals have no impact on Welsh medium. Surely the priority for the council should be a relentless focus on raising standards in the individual schools, and this is a diversion from what we should be doing, and that is supporting those schools to get out of special measures as quickly as they can, because the staff and the pupils can get those schools out of special measures if we dedicated our time to doing that, not dedicated our time to doing this. The concern of this community is that this is a precursor to losing their high school. And it is inconceivable for this town not to have high school. There are opportunities for greater collaboration and cooperation. That's what happens now. Good practice can be spread. We don't need a structural change to allow good practice to spread across our schools. That can happen now. And if we are looking at improving and changing our practice, may I humbly suggest that with the changes to the curriculum, a focus on greater collaboration between the primary sector and the secondary sector actually would bring bigger dividends in terms of educational outcomes for our children. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much indeed for those comments, so eloquently put and obviously well supported by the audience here, so thank you for those comments. The issue in terms of the role of the elected members, I did make it quite clear myself, this is only the second session I've chaired, but I have actually indicated at my previous meeting at Builth that they're always very much as observers. I think there was one question asked last night to one of the elected members who answered it directly, but my understanding is they're here purely as observers. And you'll understand from the process we're undertaking now, this is a formal consultation, and they have to be very careful because of the whole issue around the predetermination. I can't... No, sorry.
They were statutory meetings chaired by your colleagues.
Yeah. Well,
Statutory meetings, exactly the same
Yeah.
legal status as this meeting.
I'm not denying that. What I'm saying is I've chaired this meeting and the one last night, and that's the role that I have, that they're here, and that's the explanation I gave at Builth last night, and there will be colleagues here who are actually at Builth, and they're always very much as observers, and I made that abundantly clear this evening to you all. So as far as I'm concerned, nothing's actually... Sorry?
Well, I've got no qualms in answering any questions. I've got no problem in answering any questions, only I must be very careful that I don't give an actually determined view. You know that, Kirsty. Yeah. I've got no problem. I've always been as open as I can be, as transparent. But to be fair to the gentleman that's chairing the meeting, that's what I believe he was advised, and that's we did. I didn't speak last night, but I've got no problem. But I can't actually say yes or no to a point. But if it's a general point, I've got no problem in answering.
Thank you for
and
that.
I'm sure Avo's the same.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay. We're not hiding here. I can assure you we're open.
Yeah. Thank you. And they are listening to all your comments, and all the comments are being recorded as well and will be collated. So the second part of your question, I think Ian is going to try and respond to that.
I only want to respond to one part of it because it was a statement. Yeah, I just want to clarify. You mentioned ring fencing. Yeah, there is a regulation, Stafford Regs 2005. You're aware of this, Kirsty? Yeah, that actually allows a governing body or temporary governing body to ring fence. We certainly did. That's one thing we did together and did it well. But that regulation actually doesn't say they have to. Okay? The regulation says the shadow governing bodies can. We at all times in Powys would want to avoid compulsory redundancies. But the shadow governing body will need to ensure that whoever is appointed to the posts matches up with the skills matrix, has the necessary knowledge, understanding and subject expertise to carry out their role.
Okay, thank you, Ian. I think there was an arm that went up here earlier on. Was that yourself, sir? Okay.
I am heartbroken as to what has happened. However, I don't blame Llandrindod High School or Builth High School, and I don't really blame Powys County Council. What has happened is you haven't got young families in Builth, Ryder, Llandrindod, Prestige. We haven't had the economic development to bring them. Right? Okay, that's not relevant to the question. There are two questions at once. The gentleman before said that SCN was concerned about the level of achievement at GCSE. When I was a teacher for over 29 years in Llandrindod and before that in Western, the results on average of all Powys schools was well above the average of the WJC for the whole of Wales. Very often it was the first, and many individual schools but it would be, right? Years from here. Now, what has happened? Could you elaborate on that part? That's the first point. The second one, I did reference to a sixth form. Right? Now, I've been thinking about this. Okay. I've got 7 grandchildren. Unfortunately, they won't come to Wales. The parents have got jobs in England. I am familiar with what is happening in England. And it's very interesting. In the rural areas, many rural areas, they have secondary schools going from 11 to 16. And then they have proper tertiary colleges. Not this Mickey Mouse thing that was forced on this several years ago. Right? What do I mean by a proper tertiary college? A college that caters for all ranges of ability, from your high flyers to those that aren't so academic, but still have skills, and those skills can be utilized. Now, my suggestion would be this. Right? It may be cockeyed, but I put it this way as a suggestion. Any fool can criticize. I'm not criticizing. What about this suggestion? We don't want this rivalry between Builth and Llandrindod. Both schools are good enough and they should be kept open on their present site. Build a proper tertiary college. And my suggestion, there's one organisation who has recognised the advantage that we have in Wales. And that is the Royal Welsh Agricultural Society. This tertiary college would cater for the wide range of activities in rural areas. Okay? Farming, forestry, conservation, tourism, etc. Okay? It would be run by Powys County Council, not this organisation that we've got now. Because we've got a new sector, actually. The Welsh Assembly can make those changes.
Okay, can I ask you to be a bit more specific about your questions? You said you had 2 questions you want to answer. Would you be kind enough?
The first question is what is the reference from Estate about a deterioration of the standards of the GCSE? Right?
Okay, that's about the standards.
The second one is about this idea of setting up a proper tertiary college, and they've got in many rural areas of England. In fact, we don't have to go very far. It's in Shropshire.
Okay, thank you. So your second point was actually a comment. It wasn't a question as such. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Yeah, I will touch on the GCSE issue. In overall performance, Powys schools perform well in overall performance. Last year, using a very crude indicator, a level 2+, which to me is not inclusive, but that's what is used as the crude indicator, pupils achieving 5 A stars to C at GCSE, including English or Welsh and maths. The overall achievement in Powys was 64%, which is in the top 3 in Wales. What we have is variation in performance between schools because schools serve different populations. Yeah. However, the agenda which is happening now is that when Estin are inspecting schools, they don't look at Powys performance as a whole, because what they say is, because the low level of deprivation in Powys, of course, Powys should be performing in the top 3. What they don't realise is rural deprivation. They don't realise how difficult it is for Powys schools to provide enrichment activities for our children. They don't realise how difficult it is with the budget to provide that wide menu of choice. They don't realise that, but what they do is they...
I did say, I don't blame Powys County Council. What you said about rural deprivation is the root cause of it.
It is. And what they do, however, they compare schools against what they call their family of schools. And they use that by the very crude indicator by the number of pupils who are in receipt of free school meals. What we have in Powys is a lot of waged poverty, where people are just above that breadline to qualify for free school meals. So when Estyn come in, they compare the school against a family of schools. And by the nature of that, what we have in Powys, which actually is comparable to a lot of rural authorities with small schools, what they call the majority of our schools are performing below what they called the modelled expectation, the expected line. It's a very crude indicator, but that is a data analysis that Estyn do and come in, and basically they put schools that in a situation before they come anywhere near the school.
If that's the case, can't you appeal to Estyn? They recognise rural deprivation, right? Can't they therefore put more money on the table so that you can keep these schools more viable? Can't you appeal to them? Or are they so much in their own ground? Can't change.
From past history, I must not comment about Estyn, but the situation is we don't have the influence. It's an independent inspectorate regulator. We do not have the influence on them to change how they inspect schools. I honestly, Mr. Charles, wish we did. But in terms of persuasion for more budget, I will, if it's okay, David, hand over to Mr. David Powell, who's Strategic Director for Resources.
Other factor that seems a big thing, right? Thank you.
I'd just add to what Ian Roberts has said, because I think there is a bit of a common theme, and it may come up a little bit later on, but we don't get enough money from Welsh Government. We get consistently the worst amount of funding in terms of the annual settlement out of the 22 local authorities, and that's largely because, I think you've touched upon it earlier on, it's a numbers game. The money comes into us on the basis largely of per head of population. And also, I would say, on the number of free school meals. The number of free school meals is an important way that we get money into the authority. And we are not, on those rather traditional measures of deprivation, we don't do as well as some of the urban authorities, and the funding is biased towards the urban authorities. It's something we're lobbying and trying to change. We're hopeful that we'll see some change, but it's hard work. But we do get there's no doubt that affects the amount of money that we can give our schools. So I have to be clear about that.
We made a lot of representations this time to the Welsh Assembly Government, and through help from our AMs, we were able to have additional money, which we were very, very grateful for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Darren, I think there's a gentleman here. Oh, gentleman here had his hand up. We'll come to you, and there's a lady at the back. So Chris, two at the back. If Chris can make your way around there. Yep. We're going to take this gentleman first. Someone there. Was the one in the middle as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is William Williams. I'm a county councillor and I'm also a governor for Llandrindod High School. I've been here about 9 months as a governor. I've got 3 questions and one perhaps a political statement, and I'd like the leader Barry Thomas to answer the 4th question. Welsh language impact assessment on your report, page 4. You have at Builth Wells currently Welsh speakers of 129 and in Brecon 30. Well, Builth is not a Welsh speaking area, but Brecon is. So could you tell us how many children are currently being brought in by bus from Brecon area to Builth Wells to make up that figure of 129? The consultation, a formal consultation, page 3, financial statement. It says in there that basically that you are concerned about the financial liabilities of Llandrindod High School. Having seen their financial statements, I can't quite see where you see that, so perhaps you would explain clearly a little bit more why you feel Llandrindod School is in financial problems. 3. You mentioned about, if this goes ahead, there will be a shadow governing body taken from the existing governors. You haven't mentioned, and I haven't picked it up, how are you going to formulate picking those members out? What is the pre-fall for doing that? Because I understand those governing bodies may well have a say of where the sixth form might be in the future. So I think that's an important point to know that, because Llandrindod High School has put a proposal forward, and that is that English should be spoken in Llandrindod from 11s to 16, and the sixth form, which would be from 16 to 18 English in Builth, giving you quite a lot of numbers in the sixth form. And the final one would be really, as I represent Radnorshire as a county councillor, it does seem a perception, and I quite say that, the perception is that Radnor seems to be targeted with the closure of a lot of schools recently, and some are currently under closure. Now that's a perception, but okay, we now have a high school that's under threat. Now that perception could be said if we look into Montgomeryshire and look currently at the current situation. Powys is made up of 73 county councillors. The majority of those county councillors come from Brecon and Radnor, and yet we have a cabinet that was 7 from Montgomeryshire and 3 from Brecon and Radnor, and I know one has recently resigned. So that perception is, why hasn't Montgomeryshire had something like this? It's recently been publicised in the local papers. Llandrindod High School, which has I think of something over 700 pupils, have a budget of just under 3 million. They have a delegated budget where they have been using over £100,000 per year to increase their pupil numbers of about 140, which gives them more money. I understand the leader, Barry Thomas, is doing an investigation into that, which is fine. But my question to him is, after this consultation is over, does he not think he should have stopped this consultation thereafter and abandoned it until the outcome of this inquiry is made public? Thank you.
Well, do I understand that your question is, because I didn't quite get, and with apologies, I want to make sure that I answer you right. You're saying that we shouldn't be doing this consultation now until the inquiry about this money that with the delegated budget. Is that what? Is that the?
You can't stop the consultation now. Wait till this consultation is over. But before a decision is finally made, you should wait the outcome of that inquiry.
Well, my understanding is we are having a report to the Cabinet in September concerning Montgomeryshire. So I think, and Montgomeryshire will be the north of the county will be dealt with then. So I would envisage that the investigation is done by then. So this does not affect the consultation that we're doing now here in Mid and South Powys. And I can't see no reason to stop the consultation and not to carry on. Now, you also make, and I take your point, the fact is that the Cabinet is very much, you feel, members from the north and not so many members from the south. But you have to remember that the Council is made up of political groups, and the independent councillors are in the control of the Council, and I am their leader. And you have to remember that those groups are made up of councillors from all across Powys, and we are all Powys County councillors. And I can give this audience here tonight a categorical assurance: everybody is treated the same with me and my Cabinet. We treat all the people of Powys. We are members of Powys County Council. You're a member of Powys County Council, I know that you're not in the same political group as me, but we have very much mutual respect for one another. And as you know, my office door is always open to every county councillor to come into it, doesn't matter what political persuasion they are. And I believe that we're doing the best we can, and this consultation process is going on now, and I believe we will have this consultation, and I can assure you the points that will all be taken in, and when it comes to Cabinet, then we will decide on the way forward when it comes to Cabinet. I hope that answers the question query for you, Gwilym.
Okay, sorry, right. Thank you so much for that, Councillor. There was another part of your question, and I think there's a couple of officers here who are itching to respond to that before we forget about it and it just disappears into the vapour. No, please don't. We've only got limited time tonight.
I apologise if I answer too quick.
No, that was fine. Thanks for your contribution. Right.
If I deal with your first and third question, and Jane will answer the second question. In terms of the Welsh medium pupils that are accessing Builth from Brecon, page 38 shows the numbers both in January 2015 and also in January 2016. You'll note from that there's a significant change in the numbers in Key Stage 3 in Builth. I haven't got the exact figures, but there's around about 20 pupils being transported from Brecon to Builth Wells for Welsh medium provision. And obviously that's had an impact on the numbers in the Welsh stream in Brecon. In terms of the shadow governing body, if this proposal goes forward and there are statutory notices and the Cabinet approves the closure of both schools and establishment of a new school, the shadow governing body will be the first thing that the authority forms for that new school. That shadow governing body will be established from the governors of the existing two schools, and they will be in place until around about 4 to 6 weeks after the opening of the new school in September 2017, when a new governing body for the school will be established based on the processes to be followed within the relevant regulations. As Ian mentioned earlier in his presentation, the shadow governing bodies are based on the same criteria as currently, and the authority would support that governing body to make sure there's equal representation from both schools and ensuring that there's representation of both schools under each category of governors.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. Does somebody else want to come, Jane?
Yeah, in terms of the finance question, I think if you refer to the documentation on page 42, it does give the position of both schools in terms of the budget position. It is a comment that's been made at meetings earlier today and at the meeting in Builth in terms of those budgets. The position that we've actually included within the documents would have been the latest budget plans that we'd had submitted by the schools, but they are based on the 2015-16 budget positions of the schools. And obviously both schools will have had new budgets since then, and they'll both be working in terms of putting those forward to us for approval now for the 1st of May. And I know that Llandrindod have worked hard to get that deficit position down, and they have plans being developed now which are assisting them into doing that.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm aware that there are a number of hands that have popped up, and I don't want to miss anybody out. There's a gentleman at the front here, and there's a couple at the back. So we're going to work our way from the front to the back, I think. Yep. Okay,
Excuse
so
me,
keep waving your hands up.
I have a rather sore throat and I apologise in advance. My name's Di Hawkins. I'm the chairman of Menter Brycheiniog a Maesefyd and a former teacher both in the high school here and in John Beddoes. This is a public consultation. I suppose that 90% of the people here will not have anything to say this evening, and I hope that when you are noting the points that you specifically note when a particular comment gets widespread applause from the people who are not going to say anything else. Our applause is our voice.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that comment. Okay, lady at the back, you've got the microphone, so the floor is yours.
Excellent. I tried earlier today. I'm Mel Mackenzie. I'm a teacher at the high school. I'm a middle manager at the high school. I'm a parent of students in a primary school. So I've got a lot of empathy with a lot of people here this evening. You were asked earlier how specifically these plans would improve standards, and I think people pointed out, you said, mentioned things that maybe will get long contact time. As a middle leader, I'm not convinced that that will help me to drive up standards. You mentioned as well meeting the measure for providing a number of different courses and the breadth of courses, and how we're going to do that given that the staffing is going to stay the same as another speaker earlier pointed out as well. I'm not sure. We went through this evening at our meeting at the high school a number of sort of factual inconsistencies and errors that are still remaining in here that, again, people have highlighted. And our concerns are exactly the same concerns as the parents have here. We want the best education, we want the best standards to be achieved. And I am still, and remain unconvinced that this proposal will improve standards. So rather than ask the same question again as to how exactly our standards are going to be improved, I'd like to sort of forecast a little bit more further into the future and ask what plans Powys County Council have to make sure that standards continue to improve longer term, because I don't think we have really addressed fundamental issues, and I don't think this plan addresses fundamental issues in the provision of education, or that they will have a sustained impact on improving and raising standards. So my question, getting to it, just to repeat it, was what plans do Powys County Council have to ensure that standards continue to rise in the future? Should these plans continue? Should your further plans then to have one site, one school?
Yes, thank you.
But I'd appreciate it if you didn't repeat what you said earlier, the manager's time, because students travelling from place to place, I don't think will improve standards. Breadth of choice, I don't think will improve standards. Having increased class sizes, I don't think will improve the standards.
Okay, thank you.
I'll try not to repeat myself. Stop me if I do. Your question is, what will Powys County Council do to ensure that standards improve? Okay. So I'll take that not in terms of changes to infrastructure. Okay. So I'll refer to the standards agenda. School improvement support is commissioned to a regional consortium of ERU. Okay. Or it's brokered, or we're part of a legal joint agreement. Okay. So within ERU, there is a structure which is consistent across 6 local authorities, which categorises schools according to the level of support that they need. Most of you will probably have seen this in the local media. A school then is entitled to that level of support as per its need, and it is the duty and role of ERU, through its team of challenge advisors, through its team of leaders of learning from other secondary schools, successful secondary schools across the region, to provide that support to the schools.
Can I stop you there?
Can I finish? Can I finish? Because I'll nearly finished, okay?
But
Currently...
you may have misunderstood the question, because I'd like you to sort of spell out to people here what difference they will see in the way that their children are taught, in the provision for their children.
Okay.
Yep. Not what ERU do, not what the organising bodies do. I want you to tell us exactly what difference we will see. Because, like I said, an earlier speaker pointed out that it will be the same staff in front of those classes, the same teachers, who you point out are, demotivated as a risk in this document. So I would like to know, don't please talk about ERU. I'm quite aware of that, but if people
okay,
want to
thank you.
those things up,
Yeah, I think we've got. Okay, thanks. We know where you're coming from.
In the day-to-day practice in classrooms.
Ian will try and address that in a very concise way, hopefully.
Thank you. Yeah. Taking it back to the point, you did ask what Powys County Council will be doing. Now you're asking the question, what difference will it make to the children? I explained earlier, so I'm not going to go over the repetition around that. What we will see, we are confident, okay, that this model is the right model to go forward, to raise standards, and what we will see as a conclusion of that is improved standards in our schools. They're currently not what they should be.
Okay, now I've got a number of hands coming up, but we still want to deal with the ones on this side first. The ones that have just popped up, just sit tight, I'll come back to you shortly. Let's deal with the hands on this side first, please. Darren, you can choose. Thank you.
My name's Mark Hall, and my two boys go to Llandrindod High School. And some of the teachers are great, but what happens for the days where they have 3 supply teachers in one day? They're not getting a proper education, are they? And you've not addressed any of these issues. Yeah, some teachers might be great, but the 3 lessons out of 5 a day, where they have a supply teacher who don't know what they're doing. You know, all this plan is for 2017, 2018. By that time, they've left the education system, and you are failing them, and you've not put any plans in place.
That's an easy question.
Okay. I think we have a...
What I certainly don't want to do is to pass baton back and forth, but actually, in terms of if a school hasn't got a teacher due to illness or to course, etc., it is a role of that school, whichever school, to ensure appropriate teaching is in place to cover their absence. That is not the role of the local authority.
So at the moment, you are saying you're going to fail my children. It's what you're saying.
Sorry?
You've got no plan in place for my 2 children. They will have finished their school by the time your plans are in place.
No. I'm responding...
You're basically saying you don't care.
No, I don't think that's been said at all. That's
Right,
completely
so my
off.
visionary plan is, what you need to do is try to attract some teachers to the area, because you can't attract them here, because there are no jobs. If you're Mr. and Mrs. Jones living in Birmingham and there's a teacher's job in Llandrindod High School, you are not going to come if you're Mrs. Jones, because there are no jobs for Mr. Jones to do. So unless you're both teachers, you're not going to come, and then you're just going to keep failing the children of this area. I don't... You know, you're all about South Wales and North Wales. This is about Mid Wales, about Llandrindod High School. Not about Ceredigion, or wherever. This is about Llandrindod, and about Llandrindod High School and the pupils. And at the moment, you are failing them.
Okay. I think that's a comment and a statement. It's not so much of a question, and it's an important comment nevertheless, and expressed with a lot of emotion and feeling. And I think, you know, we're here this evening to discuss the proposal in this document. Some of the issues you've raised have much wider implications across a number of schools, other than the 2 schools we're here to consider this evening, I guess, about recruitment and so forth.
You have no plan in place to provide teachers so those children get a full education for the whole day they are in school.
Yeah, that responsibility, in due fairness, rests with the current governing bodies and the school to administer appropriate arrangements if people are off on sickness. But we're not here to discuss that, and I'm not really, as a neutral chair, going to get involved in that debate. But we note your comments and the passion, but I guess it's a much wider issue across the authority.
And all these plans that have been drawn up is about providing education for the children for a whole day, and you are not doing that.
Okay, we've noted your comments. Thank you very much indeed for those. Okay. Darren is working the room at this side. Do you want to go to the back and then perhaps the middle, and then we're going to come over into this side? Sorry, yeah, I haven't seen you, but
there's
yeah.
quite a few down that side. Okay. Jeff Green, Town Council, Chamber of Trade Tourism, business owner and father of 3, one that currently goes to Llandrindod High School. A couple of points I'd like you to think on. The Eston report's been given a lot of weight in this particular meeting. You've given it a lot of credibility. I'd like it noted that both schools, Llandrindod and Builth, have suffered without head teachers before they were put into special measures. We've noticed a great improvement in Llandrindod High School in the last year or so since Ms. Asplin's been there. And we look forward to the new things happening with Builth, because I understand they're now finally advertising for a new head teacher. You said earlier that you heard there was some scepticism when people say that Radnor and certainly Llandrindod and Wells is somewhat dealt with harshly when it comes to decisions that are being made. One example of that would obviously be the local college, where half the students went up to Newtown, another half were taken down to Brecon, leaving us with about 23 students. Therefore, economically unviable. Oh dear, the building has to close. Terribly sorry about that. This is a reality for us on the ground of people that run businesses here and live here and try and bring other businesses here. One of the businesses we did bring here was River Simple, supported by the Welsh Assembly, came over with a number of young families and brought the new technology of the carbon fibre cars, etc. One of the really strong things that encouraged them to come to Llandrindod was the high school. They met with that Miss Asplin, they toured the school, they loved it, they brought their business here, and their families came with them. If you move the high schools and damage the town this way, it's going to be a real body blow for us. And I want to make sure that Powys County Council, who obviously catch an awful lot of business rates, etc., appreciate the fact that in the real world, money talks. And what I'm thinking here is that you're chasing the money from the Welsh Assembly, not necessarily what's best for our kids' education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those considered comments and observations. Thank you for those. We'll take one more from this side, and then we're going to go to the back on this side. And I haven't forgotten you down here, sir. And the lady behind you.
Rosie McConnell, local resident and parent of 2 primary school children. I'm just wondering, if the Cabinet decides to go ahead with the proposal, and then next year in the local elections we end up with a new Cabinet, could they then decide to reverse the decision?
I think that's a very interesting question. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We have colleagues here who are prepared to take that one on.
The answer to that question is yes, that could be a decision that the Cabinet could follow, but that would then be subject to a new round of consultation meetings and statutory proposals, because once the statutory proposal has been agreed, then that is what you need to implement, unless you change that decision by going through the formal processes.
Okay, thank you for that. Right, we're going to take some more questions from the back on the left-hand side. There's a number of little hands popping up. Keep waving them, and Chris will get to you soon. Thank you.
Okay, Liz Tiernan, head of Key Stage 4 at Llandrindod High School. In your proposal, it said that there will be more curriculum choice for Key Stage 4 pupils, and I did mention the concerns about having Key Stage 4 subjects being offered on both sites being unfeasible due to numbers. If you want to increase the number of options and those options are going to take place on those separate sites, that's not feasible. Therefore, the only way in which increased options is where pupils travel between sites to access those options. So, for example, if Latin went on in Builth High School and a number of Llandrindod High School pupils wanted to take that subject, they would have to travel to Builth, which contradicts your concerns about Key Stage 5 pupils having to travel to access the curriculum. So if you have a school on 2 sites and you want to increase the number of subjects at GCSE, we are going to have to accept that our pupils in Year 10 and Year 11 are going to have to travel between sites to do that. That completely contradicts your concerns. Sorry, can I, in terms of, that was a statement, in terms of question, what will be the travel policy with this? Where will the money come from? Will the school have to pay for the transport to enable those children to access a wider curriculum for Key Stage 4?
Yeah. Gareth, would you like to comment?
Under the current home to school transport policy, the authority has a duty to transport if a learner lives more than 3 miles from their closest or allocated school. What you're referring to around pupils being moved to access the curriculum from the host school to another site, we currently do that under the 14-19 arrangements. We have learners at Key Stage 4 accessing courses from schools in MPTC College in Newtown and in Brecon. We've also got learners under the post-16 collaborative arrangements accessing courses in other sites. That transport is currently funded by the authority, partly from its core funding allocation, but also partly from an education improvement grant which is funded by Welsh Government. If that arrangement would to continue, then that transport would be funded by the county and not by the individual school.
So you would be happy for Key Stage 4 pupils to travel to access their curriculum, where for Key Stage 5 pupils that is considered to be detrimental towards their education?
Okay. Just to respond to that, really, I think the issue around the post-16, the Key Stage 5 travelling, we have, as an authority, had to respond to the Welsh Government's legislation introduced in 2009, the Learning and Skills Measure, where authorities are under a duty to provide a choice of at least 30 subjects A-level. Now, for a rural county such as Powys, that has been extremely difficult, extremely challenging. And what we did to try to address that was to develop the collaborative partnerships between the school. And I'm really proud of it because it has been successful. It's been a lot of work, a lot of engagement with the schools, a lot of arguments, as you can imagine. But what that has entailed is that we have a collaborative model where pupils in post-16 can actually choose to go to other schools and to other providers to access courses. It's worked, okay, and I'm really proud that it's worked. However, the problem is, it's not about the impact on learners travelling. We've spoken to learners. Some actually say that the travelling between schools is beneficial to them because they get a little bit of downtime as they travel. They get the opportunities of mixing with pupils in other schools. Some actually say, no, they don't like the travelling, so it fits one, doesn't fit another. The problem with that model, and I wish we could sustain it, is that it is not viable going forward. And the issue is the Welsh Government, the grants the Welsh Government give us is actually reducing year on year and has reduced since 2013. That reduction in funding has caused us to have to cut classes across the sixth forms in Powys. Next year, this September coming, we have been hit with £500,000 reduction in funding from Welsh Government, which means we're currently in discussions with schools about how many classes are going to be cut next year. So it's not particularly an issue about the travelling. It suits, we have concerns. We don't want pupils travelling all over the place, but actually, if it works for a pupil, fine. However, how can we sustain it going forward? And that's the problem that we're trying to address.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we're going to take a few questions from this side, make our way to the front, and then we'll come back to the back, just to try and spread it around a bit. Darren? And then there's two at the front as well, Darren, afterwards as well, please, actually. Gentleman at the front and then lady behind.
Hi, Tim Wilson. Two children at Llandrindod High School, just approaching one in his final year of GCSEs. We've heard all about, from the professionals at the back and I've seen the professionals at the front. We get thrown key stage this and all sort of speak around it. But really my question is this. What we have heard is that standards have been dropping by your own admission. And I've heard nobody take any personal responsibility for this. Not one person said, hang on, I get paid for doing this. I get paid for looking after these schools, for making them work. But not one single person I've heard from a committee, from anyone from Powys County councillors saying, yeah, okay, we buggered it up. Because that's what's happening.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, thank you for that comment. I mean, it is interesting. It's not just the Powys County Council. Schools have governing bodies and they have leadership teams as well. So I guess if the blame rests anywhere, it's a collective one, I guess. That's my kind of neutral response to that. But nevertheless, well made and very relevant to the discussion we're having this evening. And spoken, I guess, as a parent? and a passionate parent as well. So, yeah, it's not just the Powys County Council. Governing body have responsibility, as indeed does the head teacher and all the staff. So it's a collective responsibility.
Governing bodies in Nantmel that I have a close association with, and Llandrindod, which I do as well, have taken their share of responsibility. Mr. Williams at the front there, and a number of other governors, certainly the head teacher, and the teachers have said, you know, yeah, we've got to step up to the mark a little bit. I'm just wondering when Powys County Council and their, in instances, highly paid representatives are going to take their share of responsibility. Straightforward question.
I think that's part of the process we're going through at the moment, isn't it? I think, you know, it's actually about moving forward and looking to the future. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I think the gentleman, sorry, the mic's gone. We're coming to you.
Right, mine is about surplus places. As Ian Roberts started the meeting with the slides at the beginning, you mentioned that the surplus places in Llandrindod High School was 17%. Now, my question for that is, if you close the 2 high schools and open it as one, you're still going to have 17%. So how is that 17% how is that going to be filled? Because we all know that the Welsh Government is obsessed with surplus places. We've seen it in all our primary schools, the 3 primary schools that have been affected are all due to surplus places. The high schools, a lot of them are to do with surplus places. How is that going to be filled? My second question is that we're talking about what you proposed. A few months back, the high school had a meeting where the governors put a proposal forward to Powys County Council to put the Welsh medium and the 16 to 18-year-old in Builth and the 11 to 16-year-old in Llandrindod. Has this been addressed? Has anybody considered that proposal? Yeah, that's pretty much.
Okay, thank you. I think Gareth might address the first part of that question for you.
Yeah, if I address the first part, if I refer to page 18 of the consultation document where we look at the potential advantages and disadvantages of the proposal, the second bullet point in disadvantages identifies that this proposal would not reduce the surplus places across both schools. The only part of the wider proposal that would actually help to reduce the surplus places on the Builth Llandrindod proposals would be the transfer of the Welsh medium pupils from Brecon to the Builth side, because obviously those extra pupils would actually take capacity within that school. In terms of the proposal put forward by the Llandrindod High School governing body, if you refer to page 74 in the proposal, option 5 there actually looks at an option of having a Welsh school in Builth and an English school in Llandrindod, and identified some projected costs there. If you look around the transport costs of that model, our current projected costs around that would suggest that that model would cost about an additional £250,000 in transport, and that would make that the overall proposal a cost to the authority and not a net saving as it's shown at the moment, 133,000. But it was a proposal that was considered.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, right, okay. Okay. Okay, the mic. Okay, thank you.
I only get the microphone when a member of the audience gives it me, so thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Powell.
That's very cunning.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gary Price. I'm a local councillor here in Llandrindod, and I won't mention the fact that I'm an Assembly candidate in May as well. I was going to start off by saying, like Matthew, was Stuart and I sing, we are saving. Anyway, the consultation document that you had, I just want to be ultra-critical. I was last night in Builth. Really, the community hasn't been given enough time to book tickets and read the documentation from the publication of it. I think 7 working days, we can't expect our members of the public to do things over the weekend when we don't expect our officers to do the same. I was going to say, my parents always say to me,
He who pays the piper plays the tune. We are pipers, we pay you, and we will play the tune. In terms of the documentation in front of us here today, there are a number of errors in there. Some have been amended and corrected, but I just wanted to pick up one on page 27, and it's about the description for the proposed new school. It has a proposed admission number of 233. I just wanted to have some clarification what that number actually was. Secondly, if I could just ask the estimated savings from the proposal. I know they're not being done because of savings, but the estimated savings are £133,000, if I understand that correctly. And thirdly, could someone please tell me, I've asked a number of times before, how much are the local authority paying of taxpayers' money for the services of opinion research services, please? Because I want to come back.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I think Jane's going to address the first part of that question, I think.
Only the one point is just to confirm that, yes, the savings around this proposal are approximately 133,000.
And if I could address the issue around the admission number of the school, the admission number is a calculation that's undertaken based on the actual physical use of the buildings, split down into a number of different categories. Because the proposal isn't changing the actual physical use of the buildings, then the overall capacity of the schools won't change, and the admission number will be the admission number that we would admit into year 7 of the school. Obviously, as part of this, if this proposal goes forward, those pupils in school at the date of closure would automatically get places into the new school on their current site, and then we'd go through a formal process around the admissions into each of the 2 sites across the school with the parents of the current year. There'd be the current year 5 pupils that would be then going into year 7 in September 2017.
Okay, thank you for that. Which was the...
How much are the local authority paying the taxpayers' money for the services of opinion research service?
Councillor Price, I genuinely don't know as I sit here, but I will, Councillor Price, I will write to you tomorrow with the answer if you're happy with that.
Okay, thank you.
The point I'm making is, we know how much, I can tell you how much you're paying David, but the decision was a confidential decision and therefore can't be released into the public. And what I'm saying is it's taxpayers' money and you must be accountable. I'll happily tell people how much it costs. I will get into trouble again. But can I just say, to see ever a high school not in the county town of Powys is unreasonable and unforgivable. And when you're talking about a saving of £153,000, I will give you a suggestion of how you can save far greater than £153,000.
Okay, if you have, could I suggest that you write in with those suggestions? Because I'm conscious of the time this evening, Councillor, and there are lots of people who haven't had the opportunity to ask questions. And I will take my chairman's prerogative and ask you, if you would like to respond, please do it in writing, because there are a number of people here who haven't had the opportunity. And as chair, I want to give everybody the opportunity to have their say.
I'll tell you exactly how I save the money, and I get with the Chief Executive.
Okay, sorry. Gentleman here who has been waiting patiently, lady behind him, and the gentleman at the end. I've made eye contact, I've recognised him, and then we're going to work our way around, actually.
Good evening, it's Andrew Morgan, local business person, 3 children currently in school in Powys, 1 in high school and 2 in Crossgates, and a governor of Crossgates School. I'm fully aware of all the like some other people in the room have said about key stages, cohorts, families of schools and so forth. It's took me over 4.5 years as a governor to even get anywhere near understanding the depth and the level of what's required. My first umbrage in your statements against the governing bodies of not just Llandrindod schools, built across all the schools in Powys, is that we work very, very hard to try and achieve something for nothing. We don't get paid expenses for meetings. We don't get paid to go to meetings. We get put on the cross if we're wrong. And then everything we have to try and do, be accountable and pass it through Powys. I just take a little bit of personal umbrage over your statements towards governing bodies. What I'm not going to do is try and have this conversation at the levels that you guys have had, because there's a lot of people, as I said, there's 90% of people in here who won't have to ask a question because they don't want to stand up and be counted. Myself, personally, I'm open for fire. You know, from your perspective, you are accountable. As several people have said, taxpayers pay the wages. Now, the only way these schools are going to thrive and continue to develop and deliver a even sort of standard of education across across the whole of the county is by having a measured service. That we're going to get by attracting investment, not just with jobs, but in terms of teaching. To get teachers into an area, the last thing a teacher is going to want to do is come to a school which has just come out of special measures, is about to be married with another school which has just come out of special measures, where it's surrounding community schools you are trying to close, despite the fact that Llanbista, Dolly and Nantmo are all earmarked for closure. There's proven evidence going to Llanbista that the numbers are increasing year on for the next 5 years, feeding into Crossgates, which is increasing numbers, which is going to increase numbers going into Llandrindod High School. So by increasing the numbers into the school, that then increases the investment the county itself can actually put into the school. If I was a parent living out of county and I'm looking to go and move and relocate my business, my business works all across the UK. I could run my business in Birmingham, Oxford, anywhere. I choose to run it from here because it's my hometown, I was born here, and it's a lovely place to live. But it's slowly dying because of decisions, not just for the schooling, but what the county council, and I'm not going to name names or people, but use the umbrella of Powys County Council do. The decisions they make is so detrimental to the town. By closing Llandrindod High School, it is going to cause such a downward turn in investment. We've already got one company that's been commented on tonight, which is earmarked to receive a large amount of funding from the Welsh Assembly to develop their prototypes of cars. This is what we need. We've got businesses that can employ these people. We've got teachers in these schools that can deliver standards. Yes, there can be the odd teacher that might not achieve it. The problem you're going to have is not getting supply teachers in place who in their right mind would want to come to these schools when they're failing. And to get them to that standard, we need, as not just the community, but the council need to get behind the schools and say, we are investing X million over the next 5 years. You made comments yourself, Ian, that you neglected the inward investment into these schools for several years. You've made comments yourself in your opening statement where you felt it was unacceptable for these children to be on the road. My 2 children in Crossgate School at the moment, at 5 and 9, will endure over an hour and a half of bus journey every day just to go to high school if the proposals eventually get to where they're going to be in Builth Wells. I know the proposal at the moment is for a dual-site school with Llandrindod and Builth Wells. Let's throw some money at it, let's paint it, fix a few tiles, let's get a new school uniform. You've got the teachers, you've got the sites, you've got the buildings. We've got buildings in this town that date back to Victorian dates. They're still habitable, they're still repairable, they're still manageable. These buildings are only going back to the 50s and 60s, if that. So they can be maintained, but in the meantime, the money that you're going to use to put towards rebranding of the school and so forth, provide it to the existing schools to increase the quality of the education. But my question is, in closing, by you running your proposed split-site schools, what period of time are you going to give this before you then make a decision to either, again, go through another consultation process, to then move that school eventually to Builth Wells, or can you offer any security that Llandrindod will retain a school as a county town, with a county hall, with all the county councils working out of this area and so forth? It needs the school, because without the school, you will not have jobs. Without the jobs, the children will have no need to learn because they won't want to live here. I've got a 13-year-old that wants to go abroad and work as a carpenter because the work in the area is drying up. He can go out to county and earn £10, £15 an hour more doing the same job. But if the investment came into the town, that's going to help it grow. And that's only going to grow when people look at an area and think, it's got a good school, it's got good leisure facilities. These are all the things that all marry up together. And without the school, there will be no community. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for that, for those comments and those observations, and obviously well supported by the audience here today. I'm sorry if you did take offence by or umbrage about my comments about being a governor. I'm actually chair of a governing body myself, have been for about 15 years in Lancashire, and it is a very demanding role, but they have a role to challenge, and in fact the school I'm chair of was in special measures many years ago after an Ofsted inspection, but gladly we've come out of that. But we have a role and a responsibility as governors to challenge the leadership of the school from time to time. So I'm sorry if you took offence. I wasn't trying to be intentionally critical. Yeah, it's that role. So I'm sorry if you... Yeah, it wasn't... Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think Ian might just want to respond briefly to... Yeah.
Yeah. Was the question around the future...
timescale for monitoring your dual site schools before you propose closing Llandrindod and Builth?
Okay. There is no proposal to move.
What is your timescale?
There is no timescale to move onto a single site. Now, no, there is no timescale to move onto a single site because this proposal is about one school over 2 sites. A question was asked earlier, I think by a gentleman who was here somewhere, asked, should there be a change following the local elections next year of a reversal of a decision? And what we said, the response to that was, if there was that direction from the Council's ruling Cabinet, that would need to be statutory, the process is followed again. But I am absolutely reassuring you all here this evening that there is nowhere a defined timescale to move, should this go forward, because this is a consultation and Cabinet will make a decision one way or the other. There is no timescale defined anywhere which states in 2, 4, 6 years' time, or even further down the line, that there will be a move onto one site. Should there be, at that given point in time, there would need to be good reasons to do so. And at this given point in time, we are proposing on what was on the slide earlier.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. The lady behind, Darren, could you... Yep. Okay, hang on, we're going to say this lady, then we're going to come over.
For quite some time, and I think it would be very good if you allow one of our students to speak.
Sorry, yeah, well...
My name is Reese Goff. I'm a student of the Llandrindod High School, and from this meeting, it's like, so you say that we'd have the same staff, the pupils would stay on the same site, but yet just from having one head and one senior leadership team, that's enough money that you save to risk the education of 1,112 students plus the ones in the future which are growing.
Right. Thank you very much indeed for that question. Gareth, do you want to perhaps mention on it?
Is there a question?
Yeah, or Marianne?
Me? Okay, sorry. Is it Reese?
We're bouncing the question around here, so you're really challenging the panel, actually.
Thank you. It is a really challenging question, so thank you, Reese. What you actually stated was you made a statement, didn't you, Reese? You said, you talked about same staff, so the pupils be taught by the same teachers, yeah, on the same site, and can I deal with that rather than the money? Is that okay? If there's a money question, I'll pass it over to Gareth.
No, because isn't this whole thing, everyone keeps saying it's not about the money, but when you get deep into it, actually it is, because that's what you're all wanting to know.
Thank you for the challenge, Reese. It is appreciated. I'm not being facetious. Thank you for putting me in order. It is the bigger picture, isn't it? They are related, Reese, aren't they? Yeah, they are related. But when you're actually looking at what is looking there in terms of efficiencies, in the big picture, it's not significant, is it, that? However, we are sitting here on a proposal which is not based solely on making a saving. The proposal is here to improve the education that yourself and all of your friends now and future children that come into the proposed new school have, to ensure that you have specialist teachers throughout Key Stage 3, throughout Key Stage 4, and that you are able to be supported to reach your potential in so to do. I do really thank you for your question, because pupil voice is so important. I don't know if officers have been to the school yet, have they?
Monday.
And there will be, I think Gareth and Marianne are coming to Llandrindod School on Monday to meet with the school council and other pupils, and I would encourage you and also your friends to get questions as challenging as those ready for Gareth and Marianne to answer on Monday.
Okay, thank you. Is the microphone still in the back, Chris? Do you want to give it to the gent? Oh, he's got it. At long last. I'm sorry about the wait.
Hello, my name is Michael Goff. We run a business here in town, and one of the big concerns we have, because as Kirsty said, I really believe this is just a precursor to shutting Llandrindod School. And as an employer in the town, it is already very difficult to find the staff that we require. Now, I think that the two representatives at the top, and you know, this is a learning process for all of us at the moment. I've not taken enough notice of Powys politics, and maybe I should have as long as everybody else, but until this started, I most certainly was not aware that 70 to 80% of the people that made the decisions on our town were in Montgomeryshire. And whether you say that you think that you look after us, I'm very sorry that the decision you make about closing Llandrindod School will have no effect upon your life at all, but it will on everybody in this room. It most certainly will on my business. Now, coming back to Mr. Roberts' statement, in the beginning you said that there were 1,500 students that had been reduced over the last 5-6 years. Well, Llandrindod School has lost 72. And all the local schools are full. So I would like to know what your estimate is for the next few years on where those numbers are going to go. Finally, with regards to a single site, we live in a very small area and rumours abound of where the new school will be, and the same rumour keeps coming all the time of where a new school will be built. Can I ask you, please, has any landowner been asked already about the possibility of building a school on their site? Thank you.
I think Gareth was going to...
I'll respond to that question. One of the areas of my responsibility within the service is for asset management, etc. And I can assure that no landowner has been asked for any question around sale of land to the authority for a site for a new school. No. Well, the same answer. The answer is no. No landowner has been approached, and no discussions have taken. Pardon? No, I know what the question was meant, but no landowner has been approached. No conversations have taken place.
And the part of your question about the projections. Gareth, did you want to pick on that? Do you want to just repeat
in terms
that
of missions, page 7 of the consultation document shows the projected pupil numbers for the next 5 years, going from 1,112 currently up to 1,122 by 2021. Again, one of my areas of responsibility is to look at the impact of any housing development, both in Builth and in Llandrindod, around the local development plan. You'll be aware that the County Council has just recently conducted a consultation and revised local development plan that gives quite detailed proposals around the number of houses that could be developed if they were all built, and we've made some assumptions around numbers resulting from those housings. In terms of the overall capacity, even if all the houses were built, in terms of pupil numbers per house, it roughly works out about 1 pupil for every 6 houses in terms of our population. The capacity of both Builth and Llandrindod currently would actually accommodate that growth.
Okay, thank you for that. I know there's still a couple of hands up. We're going to take one at the front and then we're going to come to the back. We've got about 10 minutes of the allocated time left. So if you could keep the questions very succinct, and we'll try and get succinct answers, so everybody at least then has the potential opportunity to answer a question tonight. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Toby Tatzel. I'm a parent governor of Llandrindod High School. I know you say it's not about finance, but you've instantly said the saving to the council would be 133,000 if you had the new proposal, and you dismissed the option that the Llandrindod governors have put forward to you by saying it would be a £250,000 extra cost. My real question is, I wonder whether this new proposal for a school would be a poison chalice for a new governing body, and they wouldn't actually be able to supply teachers to, essentially speaking, 3 different sites, one being a Welsh medium in Builth, one being an English medium in Builth, one being an English medium in Llandrindod, through all the subjects from year 7 to 11, to have a subject specialist teacher in each of those classes. I just don't think it would work. One of the problems is now, is the falling rolls, is such that we have to have, we've got just over 100, and you have to have 4 form entries, so you can't get up to 30, and so it's going to get even worse. So I do wonder if it would be a poison chalice for any new governing body, not being able to fund the school on the basis of the money that's going to be going down anyway, given that new school, and so therefore the fait accompli would be, well, we have to build a new school. End of story.
Toby, thank you for your comment. Can I just come in for accuracy and clarification? We're not proposing 3 sites. The Welsh medium and English medium in Builth will be on one. Will be at the same site.
Are you saying that if you're in year 8 and you're having a lesson in biology taught in the medium of Welsh, you do it in the same class as the one in the medium of English?
No, I was referring to just so everybody understood. I was referring to the word sites. They would, biology and biology would be taught as 2 different subjects,
yes, but
it'll be on the same site.
There'll be 3 classes for that year. There'll be 3 classes all the time. So that's very hard to achieve with the reduced funding. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it would be very difficult to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, can I just add something to Ian's response as well? In terms of the funding of schools, as part of the fair funding formula for the secondary sector, because of the small numbers in the Welsh stream, there is a what we call a language uplift for those schools that are delivering dual stream provision. There would be extra funding in the new school because of those pupils that were transferred from Brecon to the new school for Welsh medium would bring their pupil-led funding as well. In respect of the other example we've got in the authority where there is a split-site school in Newtown and across Newtown and the Prestine site, if you look at their financial position, that I would say they're actually one of the healthiest school budgets that we got within the secondary sector. If I was asked to say why, I think that's because of the way they've actually planned their curriculum, how they actually do the future planning. They look at the projected pupil numbers, and the head teacher that recently left the school actually planned their budget 18 months ahead. So it is around that process. The financial situation of the authority is tight. The financial situation facing schools is tight, but we believe that under our fair funding formula that the school would be able to set a budget that would balance.
Okay, I think we've got time for a couple more questions, actually. We're not going to get all the questions in tonight, don't think. Can we take one from the back? Chris, you've already got, lady's got the mic.
Hi. I've recently moved to the area, and I just wanted to reiterate the fact that improving educational standards is not just about facts and figures and not about esteem or any statistics. It's also about having a high school in your local community, having a school that my children can walk to and ride their bikes to, having a school with a leisure centre attached to it so that they can go swimming and play lots of sports, having a school with a big field so they have time to play, having friends, making friends who live down the road so they can be sociable, having teachers in the local area who have a short commute to work and everyone's happy in their jobs and satisfied. You know, it's about all of these things, and I just feel like a lot of people have said before, there's a lot of people dwelling on money, on monetary facts and statistics, and the things that are really important are the children, and that's what should be at the forefront. That's what you should fight for.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to actually ask, because of the time commitments and restraints this evening, I'm going to actually ask some of the governors here. I've got two governors who have actually expressed a request to actually ask a question, so I think it's only appropriate we give them the opportunity to ask the final question. I can only apologise if you haven't had the opportunity this evening, but I think it would only be fair and right to ask one of the governors from the school to ask the final question.
There's somebody at the back there. There's a lady at the
Okay.
back left.
There will be some... Yeah. Okay, we're going to take two more questions. Do you want to go first?
The 17% surplus places, what exactly does that mean in pupil numbers? As to how many NPCs does that mean per class? And surely it's a benefit to children that need additional support, that the teachers have got more time for them.
In terms of surplus capacity, it's one of the targets that the Welsh Government has asked the authority to look at. If we take Llandrindod High School as an example, we reduced the capacity of the high school when we removed the terrapin block that was on the end between the school and the leisure centre, which was of very poor quality. In terms of the, as I said earlier, the capacity calculation is a physical calculation of the use of the buildings. So if you've got a school that's got a capacity of 1,000 pupils, 17% of that would be 170. So it's a physical calculation. In terms of class numbers, we would have schools that have class groups of 30, but would still have surplus places.
Okay, we're going to take the final question, I think, from the lady on the far end with the glasses on top of her head, who's had a hand up for ages and ages. So this will be the final question for this evening. Sorry?
Hi, my name's Emma Palmer. I've got 3 children. One attends Llandrindod High School with another one going up in September, and I've got another daughter in Kempton School. You say that there's no plan for a single site at the moment, or not at all. However, you say that no landowner has been approached. However, can you just confirm for me this evening, and for everybody here, that this week on the grapevine, it may well just be the grapevine, that I hear that the Young People's Village in Builth Wells is a proposed site for a new school. Can you confirm this or deny it, please?
I think it will be a very short response.
Yeah, can I reiterate? I've also heard that statement that we're going to put the new school on the Young People's Village. It came as a shock to me, and can I reiterate what I said earlier? There's been no communication, no discussions with any landowner in the Builth Wells or Llandrindod Wells area around this potential site for a new school.
Okay, and we are going to take two very final questions. A gentleman there, and there's a lady over there with a hand. Just right, yeah, the one we, yeah, I can see him. Okay, gentleman first. These will be the two final questions for this evening.
Roger Morrell, a retired teacher. I can quite understand the dilemma of the sixth form. I'm staggered that you offer 30 subjects. Could we name 30 subjects between them, do you think? You could well cut down on the number of sixth form options, I think, but that's not the point I wish to make. There is no way that you can talk in terms of a split site. I taught in a split site school. If you wish to destroy the teacher's attitude to school, their job, get them travelling between schools. You cannot move children between schools. It's impossible. But the thing that you should be getting from this meeting this evening is you cannot close Builth, you cannot close Llandrindod, you will ruin the towns, you will ruin the parents' access to the schools. Your mission is to keep those two schools open.
Okay, thank you very much for that passionate comment and observation. The lady who was waving to me there, yeah, this will be the final question this evening, I promise you. Or else we'll be locked in for the night.
I'd like to go back to the start of the presentation where you did a slideshow. Your last slide gave the options of what you will do if you proceed. We didn't have a slide to show what would happen with the amended timescales. We didn't have a slide to say what would happen if the proposal was thrown out. So to me, that seems quite final. To me, of the service user now, of the education provision in Powys, for probably the next 15 years, being a mother of 3, I would like to know the quality and standards are going to be maintained to what they are now. We've spoken a lot about bringing teachers to the area. What about retaining the teachers that are here? The teachers that are here, a lot of them travel from a long way. We've spoken about the children and how we care for the children. The children thrive by the teaching staff that teach them presently. A lot of the teachers travel to their jobs here. What's to say that the proposal doesn't proceed, that it goes to an amended timescale, which you haven't given us a timescale for? Half the teachers in Llandrindod might leave. They might get jobs elsewhere. Where is the policy for the retention of the existing staff, let alone bringing new staff in, to ensure the quality of the education that the children are receiving at the moment?
Okay, I think you make some excellent points there, actually, you know, and it's appropriate, I guess it's at the end of the evening, but nevertheless, they're very excellent points. Ian, do you just want to comment about the process? I think Ian, in his presentation, if I recollect, did say if he was to go ahead, this is what would happen, but he also outlined the choices that the Cabinet would actually have. It could either be status quo, if I remember you saying, or alternative proposals. There were 3 options: to move the proposals as they stand in the discussion, to either look at an amended proposal, or to remain at status quo. I think those were the options from the presentation, and clearly he didn't go into any further details, but those were the options. But nevertheless, you make some excellent points. I guess the decision is yet to be made, and it will be made by the Cabinet. And this consultation exercise is very, very important, so that we can actually gather all your views. And there have been some incredibly well expressed views here this evening, which we have noted. We have recorded all your views and your comments and the questions, and they will all be fed back into this process so that the Cabinet members, when they receive the report, will be able to deliberate on all of these issues. So our job and our task is to bring all these comments into one coherent document to enable the Cabinet members to make the appropriate decision on your behalf. And I guess really, that was me summing up, without realising I was summing up, actually. So can I first of all thank you all very much indeed for your time, your commitment to this course, and for expressing your views in the way that you have this evening. Thank you so much for taking part in this consultation and public meeting.
Thank you.